What is up, guys? Welcome to my new video, and in today's video we have something different. We'll be rating all of the season 1 dungeons based on the suffering you will endure whilst doing them. The worst suffering, let's say, will be D tier, and the least suffering will be S tier. So I can follow that a bit. Sorry for no uploads these days, I was sick, but I'm feeling better now, and now let's start. The War Within, it's a lot like sitting and watching nothing. A waste of time. You have your rage quitters, you have your people that don't have any idea what they are doing, and then you have tanks that do a big first pull, they wipe, and they leave. You have basically every single type of person in the War Within. You're always looking for that one key to do. But what does that say about you? First up, first dungeon that we'll be talking about is City of Threats. Now this dungeon has actually 3 strategies, but don't let them fool you. First one is that you have a decent group, tank talks to the illusions at the start, you get a buff and clear all the way without problems. Then 2 of 3 DPS die twice on the last boss and tank leaves because he won't bother with that group. Second option is that people randomly die on the first 2 mobs and your group just everyone leaves. And the third option is wiping on the first boss and tank leaving even though he didn't pull the boss when he should have. Now, City of Threats is a bit like cliché, and you already know what is going to happen, but you're just waiting for it to happen and you need your mythic rating. For the suffering of City of Threats, I'll give it D tier. You will suffer a lot in this dungeon, trust me on that one. Next up is Arakara, City of Echoes, the little brother to City of Threats. But this one does not get any better. This is like you, all the way back in high school, walking into the exam without learning, finishing it and thinking you did good, and then getting an F. And why does that happen? Well, let me tell you. City of Echoes, Arakara City of Echoes, is exactly the same. In case you don't wipe on the first boss, it will probably look like you're going to get a +2 or +3, but then there is the final boss of the dungeon where more things can happen. You can avoid the blood puddles and try to dodge it and fail, meaning you don't stand in the shit, you be warrior like I am and then fail the heroic leap. You can be a Death Knight and ignore everything because they just do whatever they want. Or a DPS paladin will randomly dispel green shit that is fuming out of you and someone will die. But unlike City of Threats, people will not leave because they are sweating over the trinket and they want to get it. But you never get it, and that is why Arakara City of Echoes takes the place in C tier. If you get the trinket, it would be B tier because the suffering actually paid off, but since I don't get it and it doesn't pay off, I'll give it C tier. And for the third dungeon, we'll go with Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker is like waking up in the morning and seeing the light coming into your room and feeling warmth until you get to the ship in the dungeon. Now this dungeon ain't too bad if you place the portals at normal places, and if you point the orb into the right direction on second boss, you should be having 0 problems at all. But wait, there is the second mini-boss where someone God knows how always manages to pull some packs from God knows where that make you wipe a few times, but other than that, dungeon is actually pretty nice and pretty easy, and you will not experience levers like in the first one because, I don't know, like this dungeon is just too easy. And for that, Dawnbreaker, for suffering, will get an A tier. You don't suffer much there. And now, last but not least, the Stonevault. This dungeon will cause you heartbreak, end of friendships, and make you question your life. If you manage to have better luck than me and not wipe whilst last boss is on 2% HP, I admit that is a skill issue, you will experience a group arguing before the first boss about the spikes or range DPS telling you how they can't interrupt the third boss because they are not only DPS in the group, whilst they are the only range DPS. And worst of all, the last room is where your dreams will shatter, with some people pulling both packs, and if you are not 620 item level doing a +2 key, you'll wipe here. For me, Stonevault is like a stone grave. You will suffer here, you will suffer and you don't even know how much. And for that, Stonevault actually gets Like, should I put it in B or C? I'm not really sure. Like, Arakara City of Echoes, like, you can get the trinket, but Stonevault, you don't get shit, you just want to get it over with. For me, Stonevault is C tier. You'll suffer here a lot. And now, let's start with the old dungeons. And for the 5th, we have Mists of Tirna Sight, or however you call it, I do not give a fuck. It reminds me of the nice times I had in Shadowlands, when I had nothing to worry about but to play World of Warcraft on my hunter, but now you're more likely to be pulling your hair out once you get to the second boss. For some reason, people still cannot learn anything about the game other than mashing buttons and hoping that they do some damage. And that will lead you to wipe after wipe after wipe on the second boss, because our brains are like gel, are like water. We cannot think, and people will not bother learning something because someone else is supposed to know it. You already know I'm talking about the symbols, but if you manage to go through that without any problems, there is the third boss waiting for you. That will also make you go insane. For some reason, I really enjoyed this dungeon, even though the third boss I get cancer because I can't play, like, I'm a melee and he's doing shit always. But for some reason, I really like the Mists, and for that, they will get an A tier. You do not suffer much, but it really doesn't pay off since you don't get any insane loot, at least for me. And now, number 6, Necrotic Wake. This one reminds me of everything bad that ever happened in my life, and makes me question where did I go wrong. This is the dungeon that will force you to go to therapy and spend hours on end talking about it. If I ever had to talk about everything that can go wrong here, it would take 25 minutes, and I do not want to spoil the fun for our friends that didn't run this dungeon still, and for those who know it, you know why I rate it D tier. You'll suffer in this bitch, you'll suffer a lot. And now, next up as number 7 is Siege of Boralus. This one is the same as Necrotic Wake, but you don't talk about Siege to your therapist, Siege is your therapist. After you finish a plus 10 Necrotic Wake and end up with a plus 6 Siege, you think about leaving it all behind. You ask yourself, is this shit even worth it? What am I doing with my life? Same goes without saying, if you did it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, well, get ready, little Billy, for you will see something that you cannot see in there. And for that, Siege of Boralus gets a D tier. But I need to fix this, like, City of Threads is like real cancer, people live it like insane. Siege of Boralus I'll put in the middle, and like that. And now, the last dungeon of this season. Please make way for Grim Batol. Now this dungeon, I know I didn't pronounce that right, and I do not care. Now this dungeon is like that candy, like if you know that Bean Boozled candy. If you don't know what that is, there is basically 2 candies that look the same, and one tastes nice, whilst the other tastes like inside of your Passat that you bought from a Romanian with 100,000 kilometers after 25 years. Basically like shit. And if you don't understand what am I getting at here, it means you can have the best and the fastest run of your life in this dungeon. Cause let's be real, it's like 15 years old and it's easy. Or you can wipe on the first pool and do a kill over until no one wants to join it. And for that, Grim Batol will get an... Oh, where should I place it actually? Like this, hard to say. Like one of the best runs I had here. But also one of the worst. Grim Batol gets for me an S tier. Oh no, I can't put in an S tier because of the third boss. Like people have cancer like jumping into those mobs. Grim Batol will end up in A tier. And this is the enjoyment of my dungeons. But before you go on typing in the comments, yeah, but actually if you do Necrotic Wake with 3 Frost Death Knights and 2 Guardian Druids, it's actually pretty easy. Well, listen to me, this is like a pug experience. Of course, if you have a group, it will be easier and you have more fun. This is like purely pug point of view. Like this is what you see when you queue for random dungeons. Of course this won't happen every time you have a good group, but most of the time it goes like this. You get cancer from these 3, you get a bit cancer from this one. This one, like, I don't know, like Stonevault does not deserve to be in the tier like with Arakara, City of Echoes, but I'll leave it there. And these 3 mists are only there because, I don't know, I really like the dungeon. It's really nice that you need to know at least a bit, unless you have the weak aura for the maze. But other than that, that would be all for this tier list. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, there will be more gathering content soon, but I really wanted to make this for some reason. I thought it would be fun. And with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.